longtime general manager of my New York Jets, and then he was a GM of the Miami Dolphins, and now he's one of the best in the business talking about it on television. Joining us here as he's also founding the 33rd Team, a football think tank consisting of former NFL head coaches, GMs, and graduate students. He is Mike Tannenbaum, back here on the Rich Eisen Show. Thanks for joining me on such a busy day, Mike.
Hey, Rich, great to be with you. What a day, huh?
I know, exactly. What a day. So let's just jump right into it here. When do we find out what's going on in Green Bay? Because Rodgers' contract will inform a lot. When do we get to see the fine print? Or is it possible that they're still hammering out whatever Rodgers, the fine print to tweet out to say that he's coming back for year 18? What's going on there, do you think?
Yeah. I think the deadline's 3:59 on Wednesday because at the start of the league year, so again, just to reset for everybody, today and tomorrow you can have agreement in principles, and we're seeing a lot of news come out, but it's really Wednesday at 4 o'clock when everything becomes official. So for Green Bay, that's when you want to have the maximum cap space. So presumably he will get a massive signing bonus. You know, Rich, it could be 60, 70, somewhere in there, $1 million prorated over 5 or 6 years to lower his cap number. That'll give them the ability to hopefully get something done with Davante Adams on a longer-term deal. You know, we saw them get Preston Smith signed, and I'm sure they're going to try to re-sign some of these other guys like a Devondre Campbell or Rasul Douglas. So lots of work to do for Green Bay, but I would think we would know by 4 o'clock on Wednesday.
So then what do you think? What's the tea leaves, knowing how you know this works and what Gutekunst might be going through right now? What do you think of is, in fact, happening with Green Bay and Rodgers' commitment to the team and they to him right now, Mike?
So I think, you know, if you look at the last 4 years of Drew Brees' career in New Orleans, they had the best record in the NFL. And basically what they did is they gave a lot of massive signing bonuses, prorated it out so they could lower the cap numbers. And if I'm Brian Gutekunst, the GM of the Packers, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm trying to get that cap number as low as possible in 2022. I'm going to use that excess space, Rich, and I'm going to go sign Campbell, Douglas, maybe try to re-sign Zadarius Smith, who I had to cut. But I need to know, I'm sure they already know, even if some of the finer details have to be worked out on Rodgers' deal, I'm sure they already know what the cap number is for this year, so they could kind of work around that simultaneously and try to get some of these other deals signed.
And how does it complicate things that their star receiver, who their star quarterback is expecting to be there and be happy to be there, and he wants happy to be there, and no doubt is trying to use whatever juice he has within the building to make sure his star receiver is happy and made happy, is saying that he's unhappy with the franchise tag and will not play on it. How does that complicate things, Mike?
Sure. That ties back, Rich, to the 4 o'clock on Wednesday, which is they're going to try to, I'm sure, get something done. If they can't by 4 o'clock on Wednesday, the next big date will be July 15th, because that's when you can get, up until then, a long-term deal done on the franchise tag. So I'm going to work really, really hard with his agent, get in a room and try to get something done by Wednesday at 4. If I can't, then I'm just going to put it off to the side, understand that he wants a long-term deal, understand we want to give him a long-term deal, and I'm going to do everything I can between free agency, the draft, and then come back to it probably right after the July 4th holiday.
So what could change between now and July? Like, why can't something get done now? Just because there's too much else going on? You know what I'm saying? Like how?
Yeah.
What's the mechanics there?
If I'm the player, I may want to wait because I want to see the market. So I think it's a pretty easy deal to get done, candidly, based on Mike Williams' reported $20 million a year in the Charger. You know, he has to be above that. But there may be a receiver or two that goes even higher. So if I'm Davante Adams, I may just say, hey, just remember this. I'm not coming in on a one-year deal, and I could sign it on March, 16th or July 14th, but just make sure you save enough cash and cap for me. And I'm sure he's telling his good friend Aaron Rodgers the same thing. So I actually think in this situation, Rich, time is on Davante Adams' side.
That's his leverage, is what you're saying on that front?
100%. Yeah, I want to see the entire market. I want to see every other deal get done that's out there, and I want to take the best of everything. And, you know, DeAndre Hopkins signed a deal that some will value at $27 million a year, but, you know, there's a lot to be, to me, there's a lot to be learned by waiting. If I'm Davante Adams, knowing that Aaron Rodgers, more than anybody else, will push to get the best deal done for me.
Mike Tannenbaum here on the Rich Eisen Show. Mike, you and I are from New York, so I'm going to just give this next one in a very New York manner that might not be fitting of the great state of Minnesota, but I will ask it on behalf of Vikings fans, as if from New York. What the hell are the Vikings doing, Mike Tannenbaum?
I think
How about that?
There has to be a belief that Kevin O'Connell feels like, hey, I could go win multiple games with Kirk Cousins. And basically what you have to think about is, like, if I send him to a one-year extension, that gives me a couple of drafts now to get my footing as a head coach, to draft his replacement. I don't think you can win with Kirk Cousins, especially in the NFC, because you think about Stafford and Kyle Murray, Dak Prescott, obviously Rodgers, Brady. I mean, he's at best, in my opinion, sixth, maybe seventh best quarterback. I think you're just signing up for more mediocrity. But if you're a new head coach, Rich, at least maybe you're saying, hey, we're going to get O'Connell established.
It's just got to be I just can't imagine how a Vikings fan, and I say this with the ultimate of respect, and I know it sounds very disrespectful, so I feel like I've just immunized myself from being critical. But you just said he's the seventh best quarterback in the NFC. You include the AFC as well, then you're going to go at least half the league, right? This guy now gets a pay raise and has $55 million guaranteed by next March. What does that say about the system of our league then, Mike?
Yeah, Rich, it's a supply and demand with quarterbacks. I mean, Mitch Trubisky reportedly will be signing with Pittsburgh. If Mitch Trubisky and Jameis Winston was in this year's draft, in my opinion, they'd be the first quarterback taken. So Kirk Cousins, to me, is, as you just said, Rich, when you throw in the AFC, somewhere in the middle, and that's what $35 million a year gets you. It gets you mediocrity. But I guess the inverse is, if you don't have him, do you have any hope whatsoever?
Is that his leverage? That with like a hostage taker? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that. Again, this is a leverage league. You got to have it or you don't. How does he keep having it? By saying, like, the alternative is worse, so you need to pay me like I'm Garrett Cole? I mean, it's all guaranteed. Like it's right. It's kind of crazy. It really is.
I think if you and I were running the Vikings, the honest, sober analysis is, if we let him leave,
right,
we're going to be looking at the Mitch Trubisky's, Marcus Mariotas of the world, Sam Howell from North Carolina, and that group of quarterbacks. And then you start thinking to yourself, like, well, all right, if we can get the defense good enough and we got a great running back in Dalvin Cook, maybe we can, win 10 games and, sneak a playoff win, and all of a sudden we're sitting there in the top 8. And that's what we're looking at, because, and again, that's why when we look at Trubisky or what's going on with Deshaun Watson, there's so much interest in these quarterbacks, because while, Rich, there's 32 teams, there just isn't 32 quarterbacks.
Mike Tannenbaum here on the Rich Eisen Show. So what do you make of the Trubisky signing in Pittsburgh? What do you think?
I think the verb there has to be scour. I think we lost an all-time great in Roethlisberger. I think Trubisky's maybe the first step, but I've said this before. If I was Mike Tomlin and Kevin Colbert, Rich, I'd have the world's shortest scouting trip, and I'd walk across that Pittsburgh practice facility and I'd draft Kenny Pickett. And just because you have Trubisky, I keep going, because when you don't have one, you just got to keep adding one until you find one. So maybe it's Trubisky and Kenny Pickett, and now all of a sudden, hey, let's just keep adding good young players and see which one sticks. But I think it also says something a lot about they had no faith in Mason Rudolph as well. Yeah, well,
so I don't mean to laugh, but I just did. I'm sorry. So that you could say that again. So Pickett's the best one, or you just say him because he's there and you covet what you see, as opposed to Malik Willis? I mean, how do you suss out the quarterback class coming in? Because I agree with you. I'd said about half an hour ago that Trubisky signing for 2 years means that the Steelers are absolutely going to use their first-round draft choice on a quarterback, unless they're all gone by the 20th pick and they just, Colbert just doesn't want to pull the trigger and waste any more draft capital on chasing somebody that he thinks isn't worth a higher pick than 20th overall.
Yeah, I think that's right. For me, Pickett's the best quarterback. And I don't think he's perfect, but I think he has a chance to be a Matt Ryan type, best case scenario. He's a good athlete, had a really good year this year, good arm. He did have 27 fumbles. That does concern me, but he is the best quarterback in my opinion. Don't know if he'll be there when they're picking. They may have to move up a little bit. And I think what they're doing is they're hedging. What they're saying is, like, because of the uncertainty of the quarterback position, where we're drafting, at least, we feel like we've upgraded the position with Trubisky over Mason Rudolph.
Mike Tannenbaum here on the Rich Eisen Show. What's the 33rd team, Mike? What are you working on here, brother? What do you have?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking me. It's a bunch of head coaches and GMs that get together and look at all the issues around the league, and some go back like Dan Quinn and Doug Peterson, and we put out free content. We have a free newsletter, 33rdteam.com, and it's just a way to keep everybody informed and get people's opinions that have actually made the decisions.
What if the league expands? Will you change the name of your organization? Will you do that?
I own the rights to the 33rd team, so they'll have to.
Damn straight, Mike. You tell the NFL to back off, man. You tell them that. Okay. So it's sort of like a think tank or something like that, because it involves graduate students too. How can people get involved in this? How can they?
Yeah. So you go to our website. We have students that we've that mentored with us and have gone on to the league and got internships with teams, and we take a lot of pride in placing a lot of men and women in the NFL that have interned with guys like Doug Peterson and Dan Quinn, and we're really proud of that. And we're trying to help others get to where they want to go. What
are the Jets going to do, Mike? What's going on? What do you think Joe Douglas is up to right now? They got a ton of cap space. They got a kid who they need to protect. You got a left tackle who appears to be, the top two draft choices at tackle in this year's draft, weight combined, because he's not healthy. What are they doing? What do you think the plan is here for the Jets?
I think it's got to be offensive line and corner. Rich, if you don't have answers at those two positions, you have no hope. And, maybe you sign a Carlton Davis and you draft another one like a Sauce Gardner, and now you look dramatically better. It has to be a complementary approach. Like maybe you draft a tackle, sign a guard, and I think you have to get a pass rusher somehow, some way, which this, as we know, this draft is loaded from your alma mater. Look, they're not going to get Hutchinson, but Abajo is really good. There's a number of really good pass rushers, so they got to come out of this with one in either free agency or the draft.
So you think Hutchinson's first overall? Is that what do you think?
Yes, 100%. When I saw Cam Robinson get franchised, that told me everything I need to know. I'd be shocked if Hutchinson from your University of Michigan isn't the first pick overall.
And then that makes what? That means Detroit goes O-line. Could they go Kyle Robinson and just kind of surprise people, take a safety that high? What do you think?
Yeah, they could. I think when it's all said and done, they probably go Evan Neal. Maybe it's Aquanu from NC State. And now you have your bookends with Penei Sewell. And, that's sort of like the vision I would think that Dan Campbell would want in terms of the vision of his team. And now you fortified, you have two blue chip tackles. And now whether it's Jared Goff or somebody else, you have a foundation to build off of.
All right. I'm sorry. I meant Kyle Hamilton. I don't know why I said Kyle Robinson. You just said so. I'm just trying to see if the Jets have a shot at Trayvon Walker. What do you think? You think they do?
I think so. I think there's a reasonable chance he'll be there, and I like his versatility. They're going to have to move him around. He had a great workout. I don't know if he's just a natural edge pass rusher, but he slid inside. He to me has really good interior pass rush, which we know is so important. Something obviously the Jets could use as well.
And did Kayvon Thibodeau hurt himself? Not help himself? How do you categorize it with him not working out at the combine, Mike?
I'd say this. If he had not worked out, Rich, I would have been okay with that. But apparently he told more than one team he was going to, and then he didn't, and that's problematic. It's not the end of the road by any stretch.
Right.
I'm sure if he has a great workout at his pro day, but that is something that would bother me if he said one thing and for whatever reason got out on the field and decided to wait. But he's a great talent. He reminds me a little bit of Jason Taylor, his length, his get-off. He's a very natural pass rusher.
Wow. That's a heck of a guy to connect him with. Mike, thanks for the time. Greatly appreciate it. Good luck with the 33rd team, and look for my call as we get ready for the draft. Thanks for the call.
Sounds great. Really appreciate you having me.
Always. That's Mike Tannenbaum right here on The Rich Eisen Show. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.